Hello, my name is Jordan Leach, and today I'm going to be talking about Rancher extensions and everything you wanted to know about them but were too afraid to ask. I'll first start by introducing the extensions team, and then I will walk you through creating and publishing a Rancher extension. So, aside from me, the extension team is comprised of Neil McDougall, who is our director, Cody Jackson, and Alexander Alves. We are all a part of the Rancher UI team, as well as working on other projects within the container ecosystem. We are spearheading the development within the UI extensions. So without further ado, let's begin. Prior to this, I have pre-configured a few things. Namely, I have a Rancher instance up and running. I have a GitHub repository with a GH Pages branch created, and GitHub Pages are enabled. I'm running Node version 16, and I have the Yarn package manager installed. So to start, we need to bootstrap a skeleton Rancher application. We can do this by running yarn create at rancher/app. This is going to bootstrap a Rancher dashboard environment for our extension to exist within. Then we can install the Node packages, and we can run the development environment with yarn dev. And all we need to do is point to our Rancher instance, and it should be running at localhost port 8005. So with that, let's go into the code. You can see I have an empty repository here. I'm just going to run yarn create at Rancher app, and I'm going to use the relative directory. And we've gained a few files here, so we're ready to run yarn install. And while that's working, I will run you through this package JSON. You can see here we have the name of Rancher extension. This is tied to the directory that we were in, and the version of this skeleton application. Now, this isn't tied specifically to extension products, but we will get into that later. A few dependencies that you need to be aware of are the Rancher shell, which this is the dashboard library that allows us to extend the Rancher dashboard for our extension, and the Rancher components, which is just another library of components that we use within the dashboard that follow the Rancher design system. Okay, so that has been created. The next thing we need to do is we actually need to create a new extension package. And we can do that by running yarn create at rancher/package, and we will give it a name. And here we have test package as a name, and we are going to pass it a few options. This is going to generate the boilerplate for our extension package. These options, we have -t. This is going to add the folders for types, including localization, models, edit, list, and detail. And the -w option is going to create two workflow files, and these are going to be used as a GitHub action, which will automatically be triggered when you push to your GitHub repository. This is going to build a Helm chart for you, and will also build something else known as a extension catalog reference image. So with that, let's go ahead and create our package. Clear this out. I'm going to run yarn create at Rancher package, and I'm going to give it a name of test package, and I'm going to pass it -t and -w for the workflow files. And let's see, so we gained two directories here. We have this GitHub workflows folder. This contains the build container workflow, which will build the extension catalog image reference, and we also have the build extension workflow, which this will build the Helm charts for us to allow anyone to install our extension from anywhere that's not an air-gapped instance. And then we have this package directory here with our new test package product. It came with the pre-generated folders that we had with the -t option, as well as a few configuration files here. We also have this index.ts. Now this is the main file of the extension itself, and this is where it will begin. But let's just make sure this is running first. So I'm going to run API, point it to my Rancher instance, and I'm going to run yarn dev. Now this is going to start our development environment. And first, while that's going, I'll run you through the GitHub repository that I have. As you can see, it's just an empty repository. We have two branches here, main and GH pages. And then I also have, within the settings and pages, I have the GitHub pages are enabled, and I'm deploying from a branch. You can select GitHub Actions if you'd like. Both will work. And here is my Rancher instance. It's a fresh installation, so nothing should be going on. And I have extensions already enabled. If you come to this page and don't have extensions enabled, there will just be a pop-up here that will ask you to install the extension operator. But when that is installed, you will have a couple of pre-populated extensions. These are our official extensions that we've created. And the virtualization manager, which is for Harvester, is pre-installed. If you remember me talking about the extension catalog image reference, within this action menu here, we have a new menu item called Manage Extension Catalogs. It's experimental, but at the moment it will allow you to actually import a catalog image reference. And this is useful for cases when you have an air-gapped instance of Rancher. You'll be able to take an image reference, put it into your private registry, and pass in some pull secrets to be able to create a Helm repository that will then serve up the extension charts within your catalog image. So let's see if the development environment is running. It is. So we'll go to localhost to see our local development environment. And that seems to be running just fine. So where do we go from here? Well, first, I think we should dive into a few concepts that will help you in your development journey. In Rancher Dashboard, we have a few concepts, but these two mainly pertain to extensions. Resources and types. This is, for the Rancher UI, it is a resource-centric application rather than a page-centric. Most resources within Rancher have a one-to-one relationship with a Kubernetes resource. The dashboard will create default views, tables, and models for each resource, and developers typically define configurations, or they can even override the configurations for these defaults rather than creating them from scratch. And products, these are used to group together a set of resources, as well as configurations, overrides, stores, etc. And a single extension can have multiple products. These will be placed within the packages directory. And for instance, the Cluster Explorer itself is a product within the dashboard. So if we go back to our code, we can see that we have test package is actually a product within the extension itself. So this may allude to a bit more information of what's going on in here. What's going on in the main index file is we are first initializing the package. We are going to import the types. This includes everything from the models folder, the list, edit, detail, localization, and we are also going to add the plugin metadata. This is going to take it from the package.json of this specific package. So with these configuration files that were generated for us, it comes with a name for this package, description, you can update this, it has a version number, and for every publish, each package will have its own version to be published. And the next thing we have in here is to load a product. So with these concepts in mind, now you know what a product is. The extension is essentially just a product itself, and we need to configure this product to do what we want it to do. So in order to do that, we need to actually configure it by updating the contents of the index.ts to enable the configuration. Then we need to create a new file called product.ts. We're going to add the code to configure the product itself. We have some quick reference guides in our Rancher dashboard extensions, or Rancher dashboard documentation. And then we're just going to create a new file called README. And this is just going to give a description about our extension within the extensions view in the UI. Not totally necessary, but definitely helpful. So if we go back to the code, in the index.ts, we are first going to uncomment this line, and we are going to call this hook add product, and this is going to require a product.ts file. So let's create product.ts, and I'm just going to paste in some code here. And what I'm doing in product.ts is just declaring a product name. I gave it the name of test package, and I'm initializing the product itself, and I'm going to deconstruct it, and I'm going to pass in a new configuration for the side menu navigation. So this is going to create a new menu item within our side menu, and it's going to give it an icon of gear. We're going to be in the management store, so this will appear under the global apps section of the side menu, and we are giving it a weight of 100. This will just determine where it is within the list of the global apps. So if we save this and head back to our browser, we click on the side menu navigation, and we can see our test package has appeared under the global apps. Now if we click on this, this will bring us to the default resource page for the test package product. Now this isn't entirely useful, so I'd like to just add some more things to this. So maybe we can just link to a different product. So within the product.ts, I'm just going to paste in some code here. And what I have done is I have just declared a blank cluster. Since we're in the management cluster, we don't actually need to point to a cluster, but we do need to point to something. And I am deconstructing the basic type now. I have added a to property within our side menu navigation configuration. This is just giving it a name. So we're going to be going to test package C cluster, and I'm passing in some parameters for the product. This is just taking our product name and giving it the blank cluster. Then the next thing that I've done down here is I'm using this basic type method to actually register a new resource and type within our product. So I've decided to just use provisioning.cattle.io.cluster resource, as this is existing already within Rancher, but you can create and add CRDs. You can add whatever you would like within these basic types. So if I save this and go back to the browser, now we can see in our menu, resource menu over here, we have clusters have shown up. And if I click on that, we actually see a resource list of clusters, which is great. We're still in our test package product, but now we are showing this resource within our test package. Another concept to be aware of in Rancher is the concept of headers. For all resources in a resource list, it has its own columns. And these are essentially headers in the Rancher world. So we have state, name, version, provider, machines, age. And I want to take out version, provider, and machines and add in my own columns here. So if we go back to the code, I'm going to paste in some new code here. What I'm doing is I'm importing a few of those headers. The dashboard has a lot of headers, so depending on your use case, you may be able to reuse what already exists. I'm going to deconstruct the headers, and I'm going to add in the resource, which I've just declared it up here instead, so I can reuse it. So I'm adding this resource. I'm giving it the headers of state, name column, and I'm actually providing two new headers. I'm going to give one header, it's just going to be titled property 1, and this is going to be looking at the value of my prop. And I'm also going to pass another header for property 2, and this is going to be looking at prop number 2. But the difference between this one is it's actually going to be running a Lambda function to get a value for it. So for any row within the resource, it's going to look at the myProp value, and it's just going to concatenate that with the number 2 afterwards. And then I'm just having the age there as well. So if I save this and go back to the browser, we can see my two headers have appeared here, and property 1 is empty as my prop is undefined, and property 2 is undefined too as my prop is still undefined, but it's concatenating that with the number 2. So how would I get different values for that? Well, in order to do that, we have to add a model. And how would we do that? Well, we need to extend the model of this resource. So what I'm going to do is create a new model within our models folder. And I'm going to title it with the resource name, and it's just going to be a JavaScript file. Then I'm going to paste in some code here and save that. And so the idea of a model is a rancher-specific way to specify new fields or getters or setters to a Kubernetes resource that otherwise wouldn't exist. But the name of this file has a one-to-one relationship with the Kubernetes resource. And at runtime, Rancher will automatically go into the models folder of this product. It's going to look for the types, and it's going to bind that type, bind the model to that type. And the name of the model must match the type of the resource. So what I'm doing here is I'm extending the Steve model, which is the base of the dashboard, and I'm just going to return the value for my prop is going to return a string of property, and then it's just going to pass the ID of the resource itself. So if I go back to the browser, we could see our property now is no longer undefined. It's giving us fleet-locals/local, as this is the ID of our local cluster. And property 2 is fleet-local/local number 2. That's great. So I'm happy with this, but where do I go from here? Well, first we need to build and load the extension to test that this will actually work for other people. So in order to do that, all we need to do is run yarn build package and give it the package name of the extension. And depending on the version number that's within the package.json, this is the extension that you will get. Then we can serve those packages up with a local web server by running yarn serve packages. This is going to give us an endpoint to where we can just load our extension code into a Rancher instance. And in order to do that, we just have to initiate the developer load feature under user preferences. So let's go ahead and build our extension. Clear this out. I'm going to run yarn build package and give it the package name. This can take a minute. Okay, now I'm going to serve my package. And now you can see that it is serving the packages for test package. version 01.0. And I'm just going to copy this URL here, go back to the browser. We're not on localhost anymore, so we're back in here. I'm going to go to my user preferences. I'm going to scroll down to the advanced features, and I'm going to check this enable extension developer features box. Then I'm going to go back to the extensions. And within our action menu, we actually have a new item now for developer load. This gives us a dialog to paste in our extension URL that we are serving up. It'll populate a name for us, and I'm going to persist it by creating a custom resource. Now I'm going to reload. And within our side menu, we now have test package. We still have the default page for the test package, but if we go into clusters, we can see our new property is here, and we are not on the local host. So this is great. Where do we go from here? I think we're ready to publish our code now. And it's a fairly easy process. All you have to do is push your code to your GitHub repository. The action will run automatically, and it's going to build our chart. Then all we need to do is load the newly built Helm repository into our repository list of our cluster, and then go back to the main extensions page, and we will actually see our extensions appear there. So let's go ahead and turn this serving off, and let's add our code. And push. Great. And let's go to the repository itself. We refresh this. We can see the actions are running. This is building to the registry. This is building to the extension. This is the one we need to pay attention to, so we will let this run. Okay, looks like everything was built correctly and it has released. If I go back into the repository and go to the GitHub Pages branch, we can see that we have some new files here. You can see in the releases, we have a new test package. And we also have this catalog image reference that we can use for air-gapped installations. Let's go ahead and load this into our Rancher instance. So if we're back on the extensions page, click this action menu. Let's go to Manage Repositories. I'm going to create a new repository. And I'm going to point to the GitHub Pages branch, which provides us a very user-friendly URL to use. This is just my organization, and this is just pointing to the Rancher extension repository. So go ahead and create. That looks to be fine. Go back to the extensions. Our test package is here. We'll install, and we have a version. Let's go ahead and install that. Reload. Everything seems to go fine. Excellent. Our new test package is here in the global apps. If we go here, we got the default dashboard, and we got the clusters resource with my properties. Well, that's going to conclude my presentation. I hope you have gained some valuable information and understand how to actually create and release an extension for Rancher. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach us on the Rancher Slack. You can always open an issue within our GitHub for Rancher dashboard. Just reach out, and thanks for joining.